everyone, welcome back. And today we're doing another educational video. And what do you think about when you think about winter, okay? For me, it's an easy one, okay? I think about penguins. So this month, we are doing our educational video on penguins. So we'll go over like all the stuff about like random penguins, stuff like that, and then we'll go over some specific penguins. So we're going to do like a broad definition of penguins, like some of the stuff about them, and then we'll do more specifics. So let's move into it. So first, we have the scientific classification. So, as normal, domain Eukaryota, kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, and class Aves. And then we have a little bit harder ones to pronounce here, so I'm going to try to do my best. For the clade, we have Australopithecines here. And then for the order, we have Spiniformes. And then for the family, we have Spinicidae. Hopefully I say those somewhat close. For the range, well, you might know that penguins are already in the Antarctic on the very bottom of the world map, but there are also other areas that you can see on the map highlighted in blue. So along South America here, along the, I guess it'd be west coast of it, there is some. Along the Cape, the very end of South America, there is two. We have the Galapagos Islands, which is a little island over there. We have the Cape of Africa there, the very tip of Africa along the coast. And then, if you look over here, we have along the bottom of Australia and then New Zealand. And then there's a few other islands around there between Australia and Africa that also have penguins. So penguins are not just in like the very, very cold areas. I mean, they still have to be somewhat cool, but. So let's go over some anatomy for the penguins. So I'll move myself here in the middle so I'm not covering up any of the stuff for the bones. But I want to go over the wings of the penguin first off. So the wings of penguins have the same bones as flight birds, like birds that fly, but the bones are shorter and stouter, which allow them to serve as fins, and I'm pretty sure they are also not hollow. So we have the humerus, we have the sesamoid bone, we have the radius, ulna, radiocarpal bones, and phalanges and carpometacarpus. Yes. And all of those are numbered over here and numbered over there, so you can see where they are. But that's them in order, so. Then I have a few other anatomy things that I thought were cool about penguins. So first, we'll go over the brood pouch here, or brood patch. Did I say pouch? Brood patch is just a patch of skin without feathers used to help incubate an egg. So basically, that's an emperor. Well, I think it's. So especially emperor penguins. Okay, I don't think this is definitely not emperor penguin, but most penguins have this little brood patch here, where they put their egg up against it, and since it is touching like straight skin and not just feathers, it heats it up more. And they'll usually like take the egg, and especially emperor penguins will balance it on their feet so it's not touching the snow. Then also we have the spiny tongue. So this penguin here, you can see its tongue there, it has spines on it, okay? That's for it to help keep hold of its prey, okay? So like imagine you're like a little fish or something like that, and you get attacked by a penguin. Those spines are going to get inside of you, and it's not going to let go. And then on our opposite side here, very far side, we have a skeleton of a penguin. I don't know which penguin that is off the top of my head, but the same general body plan for most penguins is about the same. So the skull, we have the cervical vertebrae, which is the neck, the thoracic vertebrae, which is the back. Then we have shoulder blades, femur, whatnot, tailbone, ankle bones. Everything else, you can sit there and look at it if you want to. I'm not going to go over everything, but that is the skeletal bones of it. So, some of the things that penguins do to kind of protect themselves. So one of those is counter shading. So you might ask yourself, what is counter shading? Well, I'm glad you asked. So also known as Thayer's law, it is a method of camouflage in which an animal's coloration is darker on the top or upper side and lighter on the underside of the body. And as you can see at the pictures here below me, actually if I move myself you can see it. As you can see here, the penguin underside is always a little bit white, and the upper side is black. So, what does that do for a penguin? So, all penguins are counter-shaded for camouflage, and a predator looking up from below has difficulty distinguishing the white penguin's belly and the reflective water surface. And then, if you're above the penguin looking down, the dark plumage on their backs camouflage them from above. So, if you're looking straight up at a penguin, okay, the reflection on the water surface of the sun or light, it might be hard to see them. Then if you're looking down on them, it gets much darker as the farther you go down into the ocean. So it's hard to tell if it's actually a penguin or if it's like a dark spot. So counter shading is a very good camouflage thing for penguins, even though it does not always save them. So, movement. Penguins either waddle on their feet, which is really, really cute, or they can sometimes slide on their bellies across the snow, while using their feet to propel them or steer them on their sides. It's also called tobogganing, and I think that's a very, very cute word to say. I really like the word tobogganing. Also, sometimes they'll jump with both their feet together if they want to move more quickly or cross steep and rocky terrain. So sometimes they'll just like hop. Penguins will also use their tails and wings to maintain balance for their upright stance. So when they're standing on their feet, they use their tail and wings to balance themselves. And then in the water, however, penguins are astonishingly agile. So on land, they're a little bit clumsy, but in water, they can move very, very quick and very, very fast and are very maneuverable. So penguins swimming looks very similar to birds' flight. And then you can see a picture here of a penguin tobogganing, like sledding on the ice. Very cute. So, vision and hearing. Penguins have about an average sense of hearing for birds, and it's used by parents and chicks to locate one another in crowded colonies. So whenever penguins are in like breeding or whatever, they are in these huge, huge groups, huge colonies, and usually the chicks and parents will have certain calls that they'll use to find their chicks. Because if you're imagine you're in a very packed mall, okay? And you're trying to find a child in like a room full of children that look exactly the same. So, what are you going to do? Well, you'll tell this kid, it's like, hey, whistle. Like, whistle whenever you like want to find me or something like that. And you'll have a certain whistle. That's kind of like the penguins here. They'll make a certain sound or something like that to help locate their babies. Then their eyesight. So their eyes are adapted for underwater vision and are primary means of locating prey and avoiding predators. And then it's thought that in the air, penguins are actually nearsighted. So that's pretty cool. So, feathers. Within the smooth plumage, a layer of air is preserved, ensuring buoyancy. So they'll trap a layer of air inside their feathers so they can remain buoyant. Pretty cool. Penguins also have a thick layer of insulating feathers that keep them warm in the water. And then emperor penguins has a maximum feather density of about 9 feathers per square centimeter, which is actually much lower than other birds that live in the Antarctic environment. And also with the emperor penguin, there are 4 different types of feathers. There's a traditional feather, after feathers, plumes, and then phyloplumes. After feathers are downy plumes that attach directly to the main feather. Plumes are the small down feathers that attach directly to the skin and are much more dense in penguins than other birds. And then the phyloplumes are small, less than 1 centimeter long, naked shafts that end in a splay of fibers. And then if you look above me here, I actually have pictures of some of the feathers, if you can see them there. And they can range from very, very big to more fluffy and smaller to kind of spiny looking. So they range very, very much. So some penguins are just a little bit different than the others. So these different penguins are the Isabeline penguins. Isabelianism is a different form of albinism. So albinism is basically something that looks very white. Penguins born with brown rather than black plumages are Isabeline penguins. So as you can see in the picture over here, you can see Isabeline penguin with regular penguins. And around 1 in 50,000 penguins are found to have this, and they tend to live shorter lives than normal penguins as they are not well camouflaged against the deep and are often passed over as mates. So, kind of like we talked about the counter shading and stuff like that, since they're brown instead of black, then they can't hide as well from the top. Like predators looking down on them, they kind of stick out. Also, since they're a little bit different, then it's kind of harder for them to find mates. And it's 1 in 50,000 penguins, so I mean, it happens quite often. Okay, reproduction in penguins. So penguins, for the most part, breed in large colonies, like most penguins do. Colonies may range in size from just a few hundred pairs to several 100,000, depending on species. They form monogamous pairs for a breeding season, so they'll only have one mate. And then most penguins lay 2 eggs in a clutch, but the two largest species, the emperor and the king penguins, lay only one. That is with the exception of the emperor penguin, where the male does it all. All penguins share the incubation duties. So in emperor penguins, usually the male will be the one that incubates the egg, and the female will go off after laying the egg because it takes a lot of energy to go hunt or fish, I guess you could say. But all other penguin species share the incubation duties. The incubation shifts can last days or even weeks as one member of the pair feeds at sea. So they'll take turns incubating and going to eat. When the emperor penguin mother loses a chick, sometimes they'll attempt to steal another mother's chick, which is usually unsuccessful. And usually, if a mother tries to steal a chick or whatever, if she loses hers, usually the chick ends up dying anyways because it'll either die in the fight for it, or the mother that steals it will sometimes leave it and just go out to eat whenever it gets too tough. So, predators. Penguins have no land predators in Antarctica or the nearby offshore islands, but they are preyed upon by other birds like the petrels, the sheathbills, and then the gulls also eat chicks. Then there are also been dogs that preyed upon penguins while they were allowed in Antarctica during the age of early human exploration with sled dogs. But dogs have long since been banned in Antarctica, which have protected the penguins a little bit. Adult penguins are at risk at sea from predators such as sharks, orcas, and leopard seals. I'm sure everyone has seen videos of orcas eating penguins. I don't have to show you one of those. And sharks, of course, and leopard seals, yeah. So, just because they have no land predators does not mean they are. When they're hunting in the ocean, they are not very safe. So, heat loss in penguins. They live somewhere that is very, very, very cold, the Antarctica. The emperor penguin has the largest body mass of all penguins. They are the largest, and this further reduces the relative surface area and heat loss. So we've talked about this before if you were like my gigantism kind of videos. So as you get bigger, your volume increases, but your volume and your surface area do not increase at the same rate. So as you grow bigger, your volume increases much more than your surface area. So the bigger you are, the less surface area you have to your volume, which makes it so you don't lose as much heat. So being bigger is better in the cold environments. They're also able to control blood flow to their extremities. So they're like fins and whatnot. They can change how the blood flows or their feet or whatnot. This reducing the amount of blood that gets cold, but also keep the extremities from freezing. They also often huddle together to keep warm, and then they'll rotate positions to make sure that each penguin gets a turn in the center of the pack. So, imagine the big colonies they have. So, when they're in these big colonies and these big huddles or whatnot, they will rotate who is in the center. So sometimes you might be in the very center where it's the warmest. Sometimes you'll be at the very edge where it's the coldest. And they'll just take turns. And that helps them survive out there. So, food. What do penguins eat? So, penguins, I'm sure you know, they feed on krill, fish, and squid, and other forms of sea life which they can catch with their bills and swallow whole while swimming. So, I think squid and fish and krill are like the main things, but they'll really eat about anything they can get a hold of. And then again, I talked about this in the anatomy, but a penguin has a spiny tongue and powerful jaws to help grip their slippery prey. So, fish, very slippery. Penguins, spiky tongue. Slippery fish does not win. Or squid or krill or whatever. And then I have pictures here of all of them. So we have the fish, we have the krill, and then right behind me we have a squid. Very cool. So now that we have gone over all the general stuff about penguins, now it's time to actually look in depth at each species, or well, a few species. I'm not going to go over all of them. This video would be super, super long if I went over every single species, but I'm going to go over some highlights and some of my favorite ones. So the one that I think most people probably know of is the emperor penguin. So the emperor penguin is the tallest and the heaviest of all living penguin species and is endemic to Antarctica. It is 100 centimeters or 39 inches in length and weighing between 22 to 45 kilograms or 49 to 99 pounds, almost 100 pounds. They can remain submerged for around 20 minutes and diving to a depth of 535 meters or 1,755 feet. That is very, very deep. And to be able to hold your breath for 20 minutes while going that deep, that's impressive. That's very impressive. They're the only penguin species that breeds during the Antarctic winter, and the lifespan of an emperor penguin is typically around 20 years in the wild. The emperor penguin is the only penguin species where the male takes care of the egg, like we said before. In all other penguin species, both parents take shifts incubating the egg. So, like I said before, the female will go off and hunt after laying the egg, and the males will be left there with the eggs. And then I do have a picture up top with a baby emperor penguin, and then also two parents. So, emperor penguin reproduction. So, emperor penguins do not mate for life. They are serial monogamous, meaning they have only one mate each year. The female penguin will lay one egg, which is around 460 grams to 470 grams, in May or early June. And 15.7% of the weight of an emperor penguin's egg is just the eggshell. And it's one of the smallest eggs relative to maternal weight in any bird species. So, after laying the egg, the mother's food reserves are exhausted, okay? And she is very, very careful to transfer the egg to the male, and then she immediately returns to the sea for 2 months to feed. So, after having the baby, she has to go off and get some more food, okay? And it'll take 2 months before she comes back. So, the transfer of the egg can be awkward, especially for many couples, because it's their first time. And many couples will drop or crack the egg in the process. And the egg cannot withstand the sub-freezing temperatures on the icy ground for more than 1 to 2 minutes. Balancing the egg on the tops of their feet and engulfing it with a loose skin and feathers for around 65 to 75 days until hatching. So they'll balance the egg on the tops of their feet, and then they'll put it right up against the brood patch there, the little skin pouch, or patch, yes. And then it takes 65 to 75 days to hatch. By the time the egg hatches, the male will be fasting for around 120 days, and since arriving at the colony, and will lose as much as 20 kilograms to 44 pounds. So this whole 2 months, okay, 120 days, the male will sit there and incubate the egg with all the other males, and they'll lose like 44 pounds in that amount of time. And if it's even one of the bigger emperor penguins that weighs 99 pounds, okay, that's a lot of weight to lose. It's a lot of weight. And then I have a picture here of the eggs, okay? So I have a picture up above of just the egg, and then I have a picture of an egg that is inside a human's hand. So, a very, very big egg. Can you imagine an omelet like that? So, emperor penguin babies. The hatching of an emperor penguin egg may take as long as 2 or 3 days to complete, and the newly hatched chicks are covered with only a thin layer of down. Down is just a layer of feathers, just a very thin layer of feathers, and it is entirely dependent on the parents to provide food and warmth. Yeah, and like I said, the down feathers is just a fine layer of feathers. The father will feed the baby even though he is starving to death. He'll feed it a curd-like substance composed of 59% protein, 28% lipids, which is produced by a gland in his esophagus. And he is able to produce this crop of milk to temporarily sustain the chick for 4 to 7 days. And the ability to produce this crop milk in birds is only found in pigeons, flamingos, and then also male emperor penguins. So, about 45 to 50 days after hatching, the chicks will form a creche, which is like a group of them, and they'll huddle together for warmth and protection. And then both parents will go to forage at sea and return periodically to feed the chicks. So, after 45 to 50 days, then both parents just leave the babies, and the babies will just like cuddle in a group to stay warm until the parents come back to feed them again. And then I have a picture there of Emperor Penguin with the baby again. So, adaptations to the cold. So, emperor penguins breed in the coldest environment of any bird species. The air temperature there in the Antarctic can reach negative 40 degrees Celsius and negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and the wind speeds may reach 144 kilometers per an hour or 89 miles per an hour. And then the water temperature is a very, very cold, frigid negative 1.8 degrees Celsius or 28.8 degrees Fahrenheit. The dense feathers that they have will provide 80 to 90% of its insulation, and it has a layer of subdermal fat, which may be up to about 30 centimeters or 1.2 inches thick before breeding, which also helps them keep warm. The muscles allow for the feathers to be held erect on land, reducing heat loss by trapping a layer of air next to the skin. The plumage is flattened in the water, thus waterproofing the skin and the downy underlayer. So, when they're on land, the feathers are left up to trap air, which will then keep them warm. And then, when they're in water, they'll flatten and it'll waterproof them so they don't get wet. They can also heat up themselves, warm up, by movement, such as swimming, walking, and shivering, and then they can also break down some of the fats they have stored. So, adaptations to pressure and low oxygen. So, the bones of penguins, like I said before, are solid rather than air-filled like most birds, which eliminates the risk of mechanical barotrauma. Which is physical damage to the body tissues caused by a difference in pressure between a gas space inside or in contact with the body and the surrounding gas or liquid. So basically pressure damage. That's basically all it is. Then while diving, the emperor penguin's oxygen use is reduced. This is the heart rate is reduced as low as 15 to 20 beats per minute, and then non-essential organs are shut down. So whenever the penguin dives to save oxygen, it's like, these kidneys, I don't really need these kidneys right now. We can shut them down. Do I need a liver right now? I don't know exactly what organs they shut down, but they can shut down certain non-essential ones that they don't need while they're diving. And it saves oxygen, which is very, very cool. Then their hemoglobin and myoglobin are able to bind and transport oxygen at low blood concentrations, which helps them in low oxygen environments. Pretty cool. So, now let's move on to our next penguin species. This is the little penguin. Commonly known as the fairy penguin, little blue penguin, or just blue penguin. They are the smallest species of penguin. So we went from the largest, the emperor penguin, to the smallest, the little penguin. They originate from New Zealand, but there is also a species that is on Australia. So typically they grow between 30 to 33 centimeters, which is 12 to 13 inches tall, and on average they weigh 1.5 kilograms or 3.3 pounds. That is very small. That is very, very small, 3.3 pounds. Imagine just 3 pounds in your hands, okay? And that's a little penguin. That's a little penguin. The average for the species is 6.5 years of like living lifespan, but they exceptionally, in some exceptional cases, they may live up to 25 years in captivity. There has been some that have lived about that long. Then they live in burrows under trees and rocky crevices, etc., stuff like that. Any holes they can find in the ground. And then I have the map here showing. So there's two different like species of little penguins. One is on Australia, one is on New Zealand. Those are marked by the red and blue lines on here. And then I have a picture of the little penguins over there. They're very, very cute coming out of their burrow. Just very, very cute birds. Then we have the Galapagos penguins, which are really the penguins that are like the furthest north. So these are a penguin endemic to the Galapagos Islands of Ecuador. They're the second smallest penguins species of penguin after the little penguin. It is the only penguin found north of the equator because the cool waters of the Humboldt and the Cromwell currents allow it to survive despite the tropical latitudes. So just because of the cool water coming up there next to the Galapagos, that makes it so these penguins can survive. Each penguin keeps only one mate and breeds year-round, and nests are typically in caves and crevices. So these penguins only keep one mate. They mate year-round. So they have a lifespan of around 20 years. That's quite long, I feel like. Then the average Galapagos penguin is 48 to 50 centimeters, which is 19 to 20 inches tall, and weighs around 2 to 4 kilograms or 4.4 to 8.8 pounds. So these are over double the size of the little penguin. And then I have a picture of them up there. So basically, the reason why I put the Galapagos penguins on here is because they are special that they are the only penguin in the north of the equator. So pretty cool. So, the snares penguin, okay? I've seen the snares penguin quite often, okay? Like, if I'm not looking at an emperor penguin, I'm looking at a snares penguin. So, snares penguins are also known as the snares crested penguin or the snares island penguin. So, they're named after the island they're found on. They're from New Zealand on the Snares Islands. They are about 50 to 70 centimeters, which is about 19.5 to 27.5 inches. They weigh about 2.5 to 4 kilograms, which is 5.5 to 8.8 pounds. The Snares penguin nest in dense colonies under the tree cover of the Orioles forest or on the coastal rocks. So, in these forests or the coastal rocks, they will make shallow holes in the ground, which they'll layer the bottom with grass, leaves, twigs, peat, or pebbles to make their nest. So, the female will lay 2 eggs, typically about 3 to 5 days apart, and then they hatch 31 to 37 days later. The second egg that is laid is 85% larger than the first. And then the larger egg also hatches first. So, you might be asking, well, why is one egg larger? I'm glad you asked. So, the smaller egg that hatches later is usually outcompeted by its sibling and usually does not survive. So, basically, the big egg, the one that is laid second, is the one that they really, really want to survive. But if somehow the big egg does die, then the smaller egg is just extra. It's just in case. It's just there just in case. So it's kind of sad that the sibling will usually die. The smaller of the eggs will usually die. And then I have a picture of the eggs. So, as you can see, the second laid egg is the bigger one there, and then the other one is the first laid egg. And you can see the large difference in size. And then I also have the picture of the Snares penguin up there. Very, very cool. Okay, Then we have also African penguins, which I do like the look of African penguins. They are very cool too. They're also known as the Cape penguins or South African penguins. So these are the ones that are found in the Cape of Africa. They're found in the southern African waters. The adults weigh in average of 2.2 to 3.5 kilograms or 4.9 to 7.7 pounds. And then they are also 70 to 70 centimeters tall or 24 to 28 inches tall. So, the average lifespan of an African penguin is 10 to 25 years around in the wild, but in captivity they can live up to 30. They were once extremely numerous in Africa, but they are now the rarest species of penguin classified as critically endangered. So, the nests of these penguins are usually burrows, and they usually burrow in guano or nests in the sand under boulders or bushes. And a clutch of 2 eggs, which are 3 to 4 times bigger than chicken eggs. So, these penguins, again, are 2 egg species, but they're not like different sizes like the snare penguins. And they're 4 times bigger than a chicken egg. Very, very big eggs. Then again, we have the picture there. Then I think this is the last one we're going to talk about here, but I had to talk about the chinstrap penguins. They're very cute too. They're also known as the ringed penguins or bearded penguins or stonecracker penguins. They inhabit a variety of islands and shores in the southern Pacific and the Antarctic oceans. So these are the islands that are between Africa and Australia. The length of these penguins, how tall they are 68 to 76 centimeters or 27 to 30 inches. And then they weigh about 3.2 to 5.3 kilograms, which is 7.1 to 11.7 pounds. They generally considered to be the most aggressive and ill-tempered species of penguin, which, looking at them, you might not be able to tell. I have not got close enough to know if they're like very mean or anything, but I'll take the word for it. They build circular nests from stones, and then they lay 2 eggs again. Uh, the chicks that hatch after around 37 days. And then this is the one cool thing I learned about chinstrap penguins that I thought was really, really cool. Okay, so chinstrap penguins are known to microsleep. So I'm pretty sure you should probably understand what microsleeping is. Very, very short sleep. So the microsleep is they can microsleep up to 10,000 times a day and accomplish this in 4-second bouts of sleep. So they can just be sitting there and just go to sleep for 4 seconds, wake up, go back to sleep for 4 seconds, wake up. And by doing this, they can accumulate over 11 hours of sleep for each brain hemisphere daily. So that's a lot of sleep. That's a lot of sleep. Like whenever I initially heard the microsleep, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, like microsleeping, like you could just be sitting there like standing and then just like sleep while standing up or something. But then I saw that they can accumulate 11 hours of sleep for each brain hemisphere. That is a lot of sleep. So very cool. And then I also have a picture here, and you can tell they're chinstrap penguins because it looks like they have a chin strap, which I'm sure you all know that anyways. But yeah, and then also there's the chicks. There's the chicks up there too, which they're pretty cool, cute chicks. That is all I have for penguins today. There was quite a bit more I could have added to this, but as you can see, the video is already getting quite long, and I did not have time to do very much more. But I think this is quite a bit about penguins. Okay. I spent a lot of time on this, like all my videos. Did a lot of research, tried to pronounce everything correctly as best I could. That and I just love penguins, okay? Kind of like I said in the very beginning of this video, whenever I think of like Christmas and winter and stuff like that, winter I think of snow, snow I think of penguins, okay? Penguins and I guess polar bears too. But yeah, penguins, while being very cute and stuff like that, they are very interesting animals. And I think it's very interesting, like the crop milk that the emperor penguin can make. I thought that was pretty cool. I also thought the micro sleeping was pretty cool. What else was it? I know there's quite a few other things. Um, I guess that the African penguins are like rare now. I guess that's probably one of the things. Like African penguins are kind of, I like the look of them. Now the snare penguins, I think it's interesting the two eggs they lay, okay? Because they, I guess they don't put all their eggs in one basket, okay? They have two eggs just in case. So that's kind of cool there. I do want to go back to not the little penguins. I want to go back to emperor penguins. Yeah, this is where I want to go. So, yeah, so I want to go back here and like more like reiterate about the egg of the emperor penguin. So I said that it's 15.5% of the weight is just eggshell. So then you also go down here to how the transferring of the egg between the female to the male is awkward and difficult. Well, the reason why the eggshell is so thick is because they have to transfer the egg. So, many couples will still drop and crack the egg, even with it having such more eggshell on it. And then also, if they just so happen to just drop the egg on the snow at the icy ground, and they can't pick it up close enough, like fast enough, the egg dies there. Like it's just so cold that it cannot stay on the ground that long. Emperor penguins are probably by far my favorite. Um, that also I thought it was interesting that the male will take care of the egg, and for how long? 120 days taking care of an egg like that. Whew. Um, yeah. So yeah, I hope that kind of is interesting to you guys. Like there's a lot of stuff about penguins, a lot of stuff I could not put on here. I'm glad I could actually put some of my penguin knowledge to use, I guess, because whenever I go to the zoo, I always want to go to the penguin house where they have all the penguins, and I always spend time there, like quite a bit of time. Plus, because it's usually hot whenever I go to the zoo, so going somewhere cool is nice. Oh, I want to tell a story, okay? I want to tell one story about whenever I went to the zoo when I was in grade school. So, this is about penguins, okay? So, we went to the zoo, and one of my best buddies, okay, he had brought his dad. I had my mom there, and we were walking around, and we went to the penguin house, okay? Um, his dad is a little. He likes to mess around, okay? His dad likes to do stuff he's not supposed to. So we're in the penguin house, and like I'm sitting there just watching the penguins, and then all of a sudden, I turn around, like I hear something, and I turn around. His dad has like reached his arms over the tank to the penguins, and he has grabbed a penguin and is holding it. And the penguin's like freaking out and stuff like that, and like he should not have touched the penguin. I'm not condoning it at all, but he had grabbed a hold of the penguin and was like holding it, and I just remember like whenever the people that were sitting there, like I guess like the zookeepers or whatever, whenever they saw him had picked up the penguin, they instantly were over there like, hey, put down the penguin, put down the penguin. But like I always remember him picking up that penguin there. That's always a core memory for me about penguins. It's just there at the penguin house with my friend's dad picking up a penguin. Yeah. So, anyways, that's my story. That's the educational video for this month on penguins. Since it's snowing right now that I'm like here. So, snow, penguins, perfect. Yeah. So, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned more about penguins. I hope you learned something interesting about some different penguin species. And I hope you'll come back next month for whatever educational video I have. I have an idea for something which it's not really about a species or a creature or anything like that. It's more of just how we interact with our environment kind of thing, or how the environment affects us. So it's it might not be what I usually do for these videos, but I think it'll be a good video anyways, so I think you'll enjoy it anyways. But anyways, since this is going to be the only educational video we make for this month, I guess whenever you watch this or whatever, if you watch it during Christmas time, Merry Christmas. Like, you might watch it during this month, and like, just Merry Christmas to you all. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. So, bye bye.